Today I want to talk about the love of my life, residential real estate. So specifically I want to talk about, yeah, you can get down. Today I specifically want to talk about deadlines is what I want to talk about. Whether or not to put a deadline on an offer and some things to think about. Taking off? Not fun? So whether or not to put in a deadline in an offer. So the thought from people that might not do as much real estate as we do is, well, why wouldn't you put a deadline? You want to know by a certain time. So here are some of the pitfalls for putting a deadline on a contract. If you put a deadline, first it's a matter of, the question is, how long do you put on the deadline? Do you make it super fast, 6 hours, 24 hours, or do you go ahead and give them 2 or 3 days? Who would you rather watch? Okay, that was the last time. So the problem with putting in a deadline is, if you put a 3-day deadline in, the chances are, you say, if it's Monday and you put in some sort of Thursday at 5 p.m. deadline, they will take the entire time. Whereas if you just made an offer that had no deadline on it and it was just open, then they're less likely to use up every moment of that time. So they almost think like they have the right to use up all that time, and it's like a get out of jail free card, or a we can. They feel like they can use the entire time, they just get this free card. There's no risk to them to keep on shopping your offer out the entire time. So one thing we do, if we do a deadline,
to do a little dance.
You did. Thank you very much. So
I was just telling that.
Okay. So one of the things that we do, if we do put a deadline, which I rarely do, is I'll put on there, purchaser has the right to withdraw the offer at any time. That can kind of scare the other side to say, hey, you're not going to... is that you can... Slightly distracting. Harley, can I tell them about deadlines on contracts? Yeah? Okay, thanks. So we do put something in there that says that we will have the right to withdraw at any time, and that kind of gives them a little bit of a, don't just wait the 3 full days, because that is, the default is to use the entire time. So what other reasons? It also shows a level of desperation sometimes when you put in a deadline. It gives a sense of desperation when you put in a deadline, as opposed to hey, here's our offer. If you like it, great. If you don't, you don't. It makes you more nonchalant. It shows desperation. Sometimes when we see deadlines and we're doing the listing side, we see a deadline, we're just like, what? You're gonna buy another house if we don't get back to you by a certain number, certain date? It actually sometimes even encourages me to not reach their deadline. Teo's dancing too. So deadlines, the bottom line is, not a big fan of deadlines. If I do use them, sometimes I'll add them after the fact, put in an offer, and then if it goes, if there's a couple days have gone by and you really then need to know, you can then subsequently add the deadline saying, hey, we're giving you another day. Another thing to do is to ask the agent, when will your client be able to review the house? So if they say, we can review and make a decision tonight, then great. You put a deadline for tomorrow at noon, and you seem overly flexible and giving them extra time. But if you don't ask that question and you just put in a deadline for noon the next day, it's going to be like, why are they rushing us? So that is something that you can do. You can kind of pre-negotiate when they might be able to get back to you. But all in all, not a fan of deadlines. It doesn't help. It shows weakness, and in the end, the goal is to net you the lowest amount, and I'm very into strategy, every nuance of how an offer is written, including whether or not to put a deadline. So I hope you learned something through all the dancing. Hartley, would you like to finish them off with one last dance?